maybe Death's not actually coming for our family. Because that would be crazy.
Good luck.
How's it going out there, YouTube land and also social media lands? Welcome to an all-new video. In this video, we're doing a movie review of a film that just came out 2 weeks ago and is a 6th film in a great franchise that started back in 2000. So we're going to get right into that. But before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss this video and the other videos I put up. As always, people, if you enjoy my content here on YouTube, definitely check out my other social media platforms such as X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, Patreon. Pretty much post on these regularly, so definitely check them out. As always, let's get right into this. So welcome one and all to an all-new video. So like I was saying before, I've been doing a movie review of a new film that just came out 2 weeks ago. And is a 6th film in a great franchise that started back in 2000. And that film had to be called Final Destination? Bloodlines. Yeah! Final Destination? Bloodlines, yeah. So the 6th entry in the Final Destination series happens to be called Bloodlines, and of course this goes back to seeing somebody from, you know, almost 60, 70 years ago, basically, you know, conquering death like we've seen in previous Final Destination films. But this one definitely is kind of, sort of like a prequel a little bit, because it kind of, you know, the reason why we've been seeing all these death plans being changed is for the simple fact that this whole premonition game had started way before all these other ones had happened. And basically because of that one, it led to all these other ones, which they're all interconnected basically. And that's kind of what Bloodlines does. And I thought this was absolutely a fantastic film. They did an amazing job. Really fun, really well executed, and I thought just a really great addition to this franchise. It gave you all the same great thrills as any other Final Destination film. All the kills were amazing. I thought for them being mostly CGI, they did a really fantastic job of making them look super realistic through CGI. And I just thought overall it just was a really well-rounded film that was just a great addition to this franchise. Now, if you're a fan of these type of horror films, or if you've seen any of the other Final Destination films, this one is just the same as any of the other ones. Because all the other ones have had great, awesome, different types of, you know, kills and all this kind of stuff. And this one, you know, took it to a whole new level, gave us a whole bunch of other different types of kills with different objects. I mean, they do take it back to, of course, logs eventually in this film as well, which I feel that's kind of a running theme throughout all the Final Destinations. At some point, some form of wood is used to kill somebody. And I think that that's kind of funny because all of them kind of reference each other throughout each of the films, and Bloodlines does that even super better. And I really enjoy the whole thought process because if you think about it, majority of the Final Destination films have always been just a group of friends or a group of people that know each other that end up, you know, surviving and then end up getting picked off one by one. Whereas this one is people survive and their offspring end up being taken out as well because they were never supposed to be born type of deal. And I think that was such a clever idea and really upped the franchise and gave us a whole new meaning and a whole new thought process to the great Final Destination franchise. Now, this film happens to be directed by a duo of guys that have directed a few other things, but this is really kind of their big budget, I feel, biggest venue that they've done. And that is the directing duo of Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein. Yeah! Lipovsky and Stein. Yeah! So these two gentlemen who have done a few things over the years, like I said, worked together to direct this new Final Destination film. And I really enjoyed what they did with the film because I felt it took it back to ground zero. I felt it had the same feel as the other Final Destination films and also what made them so entertaining. This one did that too and gave us even more with taking the, you know, depths to a whole new level. And I really thought that they did a great job giving us something that was very familiar but made sure to extend it and change the formula to accommodate and also to move it forward for, you know, subsequent sequels if they want to do more. Now, this is the 6th film in this franchise, which, who would have thought 25 years ago that this film would have had 6 films all together in this franchise that were absolutely fun and great. And I know a few people think some of the other ones were crappy, like I believe the Final Destination is considered the worst of the franchise, but I think that one is still just as good as the other ones. And this one is, I think, very top tier for me in the Final Destination films. And I really enjoyed it because it took it to somewhere different I hadn't seen before. It was in like almost like the Spy Needle type of thing, like the Seattle Sky Needle. And I think that was really cool and clever and different because we really hadn't seen a building version of Final Destination, I feel, because all the other ones were either it was a highway with 2, it was an airplane with 1, the fifth one was a bus, third one was a roller coaster, and then of course fourth was a race car track. So they took it to another level and took it to something else that was completely different, and I think that was so cool. And I really think that the guys did a great job of bringing that to life and giving us something different that, you know, keeps making each subsequent sequel so exciting and fun. And, you know, Zach and Adam did such a great job and brought that to life and given us a really solid film. Now, like I said, I have not seen anything else these guys have directed or really anything else they have worked on, but I think that overall they show that they have really good horror making chops and have a really great eye for the Final Destination films and really delivered really well. If you haven't seen anything that Lipscomb and Stein have directed, definitely go check out their big feature film in Final Destination Bloodlines. They did a fantastic job. So this film has a very interesting cast. A lot of people that have been around a little while for the last couple of years, and some that have been around longer. But most of them are not big name people that you are used to in the film industry. But really, one thing that's always kept the awesome, Final Destination franchise together is one common character who was really awesome. And of course, he unfortunately passed away last year. This is his final film. And of course, I want to start off this great cast with him. And that, of course, is the great, JB himself, Mr. Tony Todd. Oh, yeah, Tony Todd. Woo, Tony Todd. Yeah, Tony Todd. So Tony Todd, of course, played JB or Mr. Woodburn, as some know him as. And he was just a great recurring character that was throughout all these great Final Destination films. He played the same character, this mortician guy that for some reason has a great knowledge on death and kind of its design. And usually our reluctant heroes end up going to see him to ask him for advice, and he does that again for the last time in Final Destination 6. Now, Tony Todd, of course, unfortunately passed away last year from cancer, and he just was so awesome as JB. I absolutely loved his character. He was so awesome. Unfortunately, if they make any more Final Destination, he's not a part of it. It's going to suck, but at the same time, I think he's left such a great legacy of portraying this character and just was so amazing. Even in this final film version of it, of his character, even in his final performance of, all films that he's directed, or been in, I should say, he was given the opportunity to ad-lib his final lines as he's leaving the mortuary. We get to see him in the film, and he has the most prophetic words that was like, he knew he was dying, and in that he was going to pass. And you could tell because he left the greatest message to his fans ever, and it was so amazing and beautiful, and just such a great farewell to such an awesome character in this franchise. And I absolutely just loved it, and I love that they gave him a memoriam at the end of the film as well. But Tony Todd was just such a great powerhouse of an actor. You might recognize, of course, from films like The Candymans and stuff like that. And he just was such a great actor that was always enjoyable to watch. That great baritone voice was always fun to listen to, and he just was a great addition in this film to see him one last time and give a really great final performance. Now, if you haven't seen Tony Todd, I think definitely a great film to check him out, and I think is a really fun film, and I think he has a really great part in it, and he just plays the character to the T. And then, of course, the film that came out a few years ago called Hellfest. Yeah! Hellfest! Yeah! You have not completed your Tony Todd filmography watch unless you have seen Hellfest. He was absolutely freaking awesome as like the ringmaster type of guy at the Hellfest, which is a traveling horror carnival basically, and he was so awesome as his character, and he was just fun to watch, and he just did a lot of great things in the film, and he just was so fun to see him kind of portray his same character from the Final Destinations, and kind of take that energy from that character and kind of put it into this character and give it a whole different vibe. And it was just so awesome and cool. And he just was so fun in the film. And I love some of the great lines he had. And he just really showed that he's such a great horror icon in that film. And he was just so amazing. If you haven't seen Tony Todd or anything, definitely check him out in Hellfest for a small role. It was absolutely phenomenal. But of course, if you are a huge Tony Todd fan and are saddened or about his passing this past year, or just a fan of Tony Todd, definitely go check him out in the amazing Final Destination Bloodlines. He was absolutely fantastic in it, and phenomenal, and it was just a really great send out to his great character and him himself. If you haven't seen anything recently, go check him out now in theaters. So I just want to mention a couple other people that were in this film that I thought were pretty decent in the film. They weren't the greatest, but they definitely were, great additions to the film and played their parts very well. But I don't really know them from anything. I haven't seen anything they've been in, and I just want to mention these actors and actresses because I thought they did a pretty decent job in giving us some interesting performances. Of course, Richard Harmon, who plays the oldest son of course, the main actress, who is the one that had the premonition at the beginning of the film, her oldest son. He did a really great job, Richard Harmon. So I'd also like to mention the actress that portrayed Stephanie in the film, Miss Caitlin Santawaini, who played that character. I thought that she was okay and decent. I didn't think she was the greatest, but she did an okay job, and I don't think she really was a lead material in my opinion, but overall she did an okay job, and I thought she was pretty decent. And just like all the others, like I said before, I haven't seen her in anything else, so I really don't know anything else that she has been in. So unfortunately I don't have anything to really reference her from, but from what I saw in Final Destination Bloodlines, I thought she did an okay job, but still wasn't my favorite character in the film. Then there also was the great Owen Patrick Joyner, who plays Bobby, who was really awesome in it. I really enjoyed him, even though he didn't have much screen time, but I really enjoyed his character, and I thought he did overall decent job. And so I just wanted to mention those people because, like, once again I said, I really haven't seen anything else they have been in, unfortunately. But I think that overall they did a pretty decent job. So that brings me to the next actor I'd like to talk about that was in this film. And that is none other than Stephanie's brother in the film, Mr. Theo Brions! Oh yeah! Theo Brions! Woo! Theo Brions! Yeah! So Theo Brions, you might recognize from a few things over the years. He's kind of been around. He's mostly done things as when he was younger. Really, this is the oldest I've seen him in anything. And I think he's a pretty decent actor. I really enjoyed him in the film. I thought he did a pretty decent job. And I think overall he played a really good, side character to, Stephanie's character. And I thought that, overall he really kind of shined a little bit and really stepped it up towards the end of the film and really showed that he's got some pretty decent acting chops, especially when it came to saving his sister at the end of the film. I thought that was really cool. And I also just really enjoyed how they brought it to a whole new level, with his performance too, and he really kind of re-delivered and gave us a little bit different of a character of a brother too in the film versus what we've seen in other films, because he was definitely more of this generation, if you notice, because it's been so long since the last film. We hadn't seen this type of sister and brotherly bond really, versus what we see in the past. And so I think that Tio did a good job of bringing that to life and giving us something a little different for a brother sister kind of relationship in this franchise. Now, Tio, is also related to another actress that we've seen in several other shows and movies. Her sister is also a Brion, and she was in the Star Trek Picard. She was in the recent Goosebumps first season, and is a pretty decent actress, and I think that he gets some of his acting from her and does a pretty decent job. But if you haven't seen Tio in anything, definitely a series to check him out in that I thought was pretty decent series. He was enjoyable in it, and he's in the first season of the series. And I think that he does a really fun job playing the character he portrays. And that, of course, is in the sci-fi and US series called Chucky. Yeah! Chucky the series, yeah! He's actually in that as a main character in the first season. He's a brother of one of the main characters, and he is pretty decent in it. I really enjoyed him. I thought he does a really good job portraying the character, and I think overall he just played it to the, really to the T, and gave us a very decent performance that left me going, hey, I'd like to see him in more acting jobs. I'd like to see him do more acting. I would have liked to have seen him more in the series. I thought he was overall a pretty decent actor. And I thought that he really brought a kind of interesting characterization to his character and really drove it home and given us a really solid performance. If you haven't seen Tio Brianza anything, definitely check him out and check in the series. He did a really fantastic job. But overall, I really enjoyed him in Final Destination Bloodlines, and I think that he overall just was really fun in the film and was a great accompaniment to Stephanie's character. And the Stephanie character, I should say. She was, played by, of course, Caitlin. But overall, I think that he was a great accompaniment to that character in the film. If you haven't seen Tio Brianza anything, definitely check him out at Final Destination Bloodlines. He did a pretty good job. So that brings me to the final person I'd like to talk about that was in this film. And that is none other than the young version of Iris in the film, Miss Breck Bassinger! Oh yeah! Breck Bassinger! Woo! Miss Bassinger! Yeah! Now, Breck Bassinger really has become a household name over the last, 4 or 5 years. She is a fantastic actress. I think she does a really good job. And I enjoy her. I think that she overall has some really great talent, and I think that she has a lot to give us as the years go on. And I think as she matures, she's going to get even better and better. And what I have seen of her so far, I think she really is, entertaining, fun, and does a really good job. And her performance of young Iris, I thought, was pretty cool. Like, I was looking at it going, I swear, I know her. I know that actress. And when I found out that was her, I was like, holy crap. I'm like, she did a phenomenal job. I really enjoyed it because I thought she did a great performance. She really worked it. She did a good job of giving us this really great dramatic elements at the same time, and just was a really great asset to the film that really made the character thrive and give Iris a really great beginning versus her older version. And I just thought that, Breck did a good job of giving us a well-rounded, version of, a person that has the premonitions, and just was really awesome. Now, if you haven't seen Breck Bassinger in anything, definitely a great series to check her out in that I think is one of the first things I ever saw her in, and I just thought she was really fantastic in. It's a great CW show that just ended a year or two ago called Stargirl. Yeah! Stargirl. Yeah! Stargirl was a really great show on the CW. Unfortunately, it ended. But I thought overall it was just a really fantastic series. And I really enjoyed Breck as Stargirl. I thought she was super awesome. I thought she kicked butt. I thought she did a really good job of giving us a really great interpretation of who Stargirl is for the comics. And, I think overall she just was really entertaining and fun in it. And I thought she had a really great sense of humor. And the action I saw her do, I thought she did a really good job with as well. But overall, I really enjoyed her kind of interpretation of who Stargirl is and kind of where she took the character from season 1 to season 3. And I think Breck did a good job of, aging and maturing Stargirl over the course of the seasons, and really did a overall fun job giving us a interesting, well-rounded, kind of story arc of who Stargirl is. If you haven't seen Breck Bassinger or anything, definitely check her out in Stargirl. She was really fantastic in it. But overall, I thought she was a great addition to this film. I loved her as young Iris, and she looked really awesome in that, 60s getup. She looked exactly, I think, like a 60s woman would look at that time, and I think that she just played it really well. If you haven't seen Breck Bassinger or anything recently, go check her out in Final Destination Bloodlines. She was really fantastic. So what is Final Destination Bloodlines about? Basically, the premise of this story for the Final Destination series is a person back in 1968 has a premonition of saving all these people from this collapsing destruction of this new structure that has been built in their area. and basically she stops all these people from being killed in 1968. We go to present day when one of her offspring, one of her descendants, starts having the same recurring dream of that premonition. And basically we end up finding out that death, once again, is trying to fix what was stopped from what happened back in 1968. And it's basically up to this girl to figure out what to do, how to save them and her family and all this kind of stuff, and kind of give you a kind of history of what started all the other Final Destination films because of this person stopping it back in 1968. You know, basically it created all those offshoots that we saw in the other 5 previous Final Destinations. And this is kind of tying that back in all together and giving us that interesting history, along with being a prequel and a sequel at the same time. It's an absolutely fantastic film. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great addition to the Final Destination franchise. The special effects were done well. I thought the acting all was pretty decent. I thought the soundtrack was amazing, and just overall the whole story was a really fun story as well, and just was really great to see another Final Destination film, especially on the big screen. And this is the second one I've seen on the big screen, because unfortunately I didn't get to see the first 4 on the big screen. So I was happy to finally see another Final Destination on the big screen. If you haven't seen Final Destination Bloodlines yet, highly recommend go check it out in theaters. Giant 10 golden movie boxes up, definitely will be adding to the collection. Really fun film, really enjoyable, and all around a well-rounded horror film. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out now in theaters. So that's it for this movie review, guys. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for liking, and also thank you for subscribing. And if this is your first time here, or you have been here before, don't forget to check out any older or new videos you might not see mine yet. As always, people, if you enjoy my content here and want to show more support for the channel, please check out my awesome Patreon page and check out the memberships in it. Because once you become a Patreon member of my membership or of my Patreon, you get access to all kinds of extra accoutrements you don't get here on the YouTube channel, from outtakes, merch, bloopers, all that kind of cool stuff. Plus, also, every month you get to pick one film for me to, or a TV show or a series, whatever you like, to review for you, and I will upload it for you. So, something to think about. And also, a huge shout out to my new and old followers. Thank you so much for, being here. Thank you so much for being subscribers. You guys are rocking it. As always, catch you in the next one.